if you're trying to follow along at home on your computer, the data are 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 2. All right, so let's just say we asked 7 participants how many cats they owned, and these are the data that they gave us. So how we moved forward from here. We are going to go up to the top of your screen or in your Excel and click on the data tab. Now that was already clicked on for me because it's naturally there, but it might normally be on your home tab. Then you're going to go scroll over, click on the data tab. Once you've done that, you'll see at the very end your data analysis platform has been loaded. Now if you don't have it loaded at home yet, go ahead and check out one of the guides I posted in our course website that will teach you how to get that loaded there. So I'm going to click on that, and we're going to click on Descriptive Statistics. I just realized normally this is blank, but I was messing around with it, so it of course has stuff in there, so just ignore that. This will be how it looks for you. Okay, so when you're entering data into the data analysis tab, you don't highlight the data and then click on data analysis. You just click on data analysis and you start fresh from here. So from this window, we want to tell Excel what numbers we want it to analyze. We do this by clicking on this little red arrow in the input range. Once you click that, this screen minimizes so that you can more easily find your data. I'm going to scroll over here and click and drag like I'm highlighting cats all the way down to the last number, which in my case is 2. So you can see I've gone from A1 to A8. You see that also written here. It automatically wrote A1 to A8. So if you're more keyboard friendly instead of mouse friendly, you could have typed in A1 colon A8 and that would have also worked. Most of us like our mice. Mouse. Most of us like to use our mouse. All right, so then we are going to click on the little red arrow again to bring back the screen so we can make more entries. If you are using your keyboard, you can also hit enter. Now I have the screen. I want to make a few edits before I click OK. First, you'll notice that I grabbed the word cats while grabbing my data. This is a very good habit to get into. Right now I'm just analyzing cats, so that's no big deal. But later we're going to be doing more and more sophisticated analyses, and I might be comparing cats and dogs and all these kinds of things. So it's a good habit to label those so you know what you're looking at. But since I did put the label in the first row, I have to let Excel know that cat is not an actual response, but it's the label of the responses. So I'm going to go ahead and click labels in the first row. The next thing is I want to tell Excel where to give me that output. These 3 options are for that. Now, I would encourage you to stick with the default, which is the new worksheet ply. What that means is a new worksheet is going to fall at the bottom of your page down here. Now, if you don't give it a name, it'll give you a worksheet that's the next number. So I have 3 sheets here, so it would be sheet 4. If I ran it again, I'd get sheet 5 or sheet 6. I'm going to go ahead and give it a name because I like labeling things. Since I'm doing the cat analysis, I'll call this cat data. So now a new worksheet is going to fly down to the bottom of this, and it's going to be called cat data. The reason they call it worksheets is imagine you have sheets of paper kind of bound together. And so this file has one sheet with the data numbers on it and another worksheet with the output. If you were to select new workbook, it would send your output to a whole nother Excel file. That can get confusing. You have one file with data and one with results. That might work for you, but I would encourage you, if you're not Excel savvy and don't want to mess around with the settings, it's most intuitive to just have it add another sheet to an existing file. If you are computer savvy and want to play around, you could put select output range. If you select output range, you can use this same red arrow feature to tell Excel where you'd like the output to be. So what I'm doing here is saying put the output starting right here, and it'll fill the page here with the data output. Again, I would encourage you to stick with the default because it seems to be the most intuitive way to do it. So we're going to do that in this example. Last thing before you can click OK, go ahead and click on Summary Statistics. If you clicked OK before that, Excel will give you a warning and say, hey, you forgot to tell me what to do. So now we are saying, oh, I'm sorry, Excel, please do the Summary Statistics, which you know as Descriptive Statistics. So I'm going to click OK. Notice it's automatically sent me to my cat data worksheet. So we are going to talk about what the results were. I'm sure you're far impressed with what we got. The first thing I want to mention is all the words are scrunched over in the A column. So let's go ahead and make the A column bigger so that we can read all these words. What you'll want to do is take your cursor and put it between A and B. So when it turns into a double black arrow, from a single arrow to a double black arrow, that's when you can click and drag. Now you can drag the column to be as big as you want, or if it's a double black arrow, if you double click, 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 it will go to the longest length it needs to be. So that's nice to mess around with that. If I'm going to mess with the B column where all of the numbers are, I want you to see how the numbers, keep an eye on this cell, how the numbers change as Excel rounds the numbers with me. So it's rounding and then it's not, and see how it's trying to anticipate. Sorry, I moved it. So just keep that in mind. If you're looking at a number that's slightly different than my number, it may be because my column is not as wide as yours or vice versa. Okay, so let's talk about the impressive numbers that we've gotten. So the mean, we now see that there's a mean of 0.57 cats. That's pretty interesting. Standard error is something that we'll be using in the next few weeks, so go ahead and just make a mental note that it's there, but we won't be using it right now. But you know the median and the mode, so there are those first three measures of central tendency. You have those given to you right away. Now this says a median of 0. Do you think that means there is no median and that's what Excel's trying to tell you? No, it's telling you that the median is in fact the number 0. So I want you to keep in mind that if there are no data, Excel will tell you that with words, not with the number 0. 0 is an actual piece of data. So if we think about ordering our data, we had zeros and ones and twos. This means that we had 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2. 0 was a number where half the numbers were on the left and half the numbers were on the right. And that's what the median is. So it is saying that 0 was in that halfway place. Mode was the most common number, so that's why it's saying 0. If there were no mode, it would say NA, or not applicable. So that's your clue that the mode is actually the number 0 and not that there was no mode. Now the only important note I want to make here about Excel or the data analysis platform is that if you have more than one mode, only the first one will be reported here. So the data analysis can't handle like multimodal distributions. That means if I ask you what is the mode and you plug the numbers into Excel and it gives you 0, you may want to go back and look at your data set and see if there was another number equally represented that may have been left out of that report. That's on you. Now, most often there is just a single mode, but you want to make sure you're looking at your data as you're generating these kinds of results. Well, now we can look and we see we have standard deviation. That was the thing that we learned today, and I hope you're impressed that it went ahead and crunched all those numbers for you. Now, it just says standard deviation. It doesn't say sample or population. So you have to decide what you think Excel is giving to you. You can take a minute to think about that. Do you think Excel believes you went out and recorded the entire population for the data you're interested in? Or do you think it's more likely that you went and grabbed a sample and are now trying to glean sample information? So hopefully you guessed it was sample. It's unlikely that you have an entire population at your fingertips. Sometimes we do. And I'm going to teach you how to get sample standard deviation and, population standard deviation and population variance from Excel, but that's another day. So just keep in mind, data analysis platform defaults to all sample information. So this is the sample standard deviation, and then right below it is the sample variance. And they go ahead and label sample variance for you here. That's nice of them. If you wanted to double check Excel, you could take this number, 0.619, and square root it, and you'll end up with this number, 0.7867, blah, blah, blah. So you could double check Excel. I promise you it works out. The variance, if you square root it, you will get the standard deviation. Well, let's talk about the other numbers that are here. Kurtosis, that's about how curvy a distribution is. That's interesting. At this point in time, I'm not going to ask you to master that. Just keep in mind that's just an interesting number describing the distribution. Remember, we have the mean telling us where the distribution is plunked, and then the standard deviation is telling us how fat or how wide and skinny it is, and kurtosis is telling us how curvy it is. Skewness is a number we've talked about, and so it is giving you a number to represent the skewness. And one thing I want to point out is, while you might not know how to interpret the number, you can try to make a guess about whether it was positively or negatively skewed by looking at that number. So it says 1.11, but it's a positive 1.11. So it is a positive skew. Now let's think about that and look back at our data. I'm going to go ahead and look back at my data by going down to the bottom of the screen and clicking on sheet 1, because that's where my data was. So if we look at this, if we had put these in order, it would have been, looks like 4 zeros, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2. So if you're looking at that, the zeros and the ones all seem to be very similar to each other. It's the 2 that seems to be a little bit different than the rest of the cluster of data. So it's that 2 that is pulling the mean up and making it a positive skew. So remember, when you're looking for skew, if you want to eyeball it, you look for the oddball numbers, those that may be pulling the mean one direction. And if it's more positive than the primary cluster, then it's a positive skew. If it's smaller than the main cluster of points, then it would be a negative skew. So you see it here, eyeballing it, and now you can go back to your data analysis output and see that the number represents that here. So if it had been a negative skew, that would have said negative 1.11 or whatever the number would be. So the positive and negativeness of the skew report gives you that information. All right, so we also have the range, which was the smallest number, or the biggest number minus the smallest number. That was 2. Then it actually gives you the smallest number and the biggest number, and the sum of all the numbers in case you wanted to double check. The one thing I do want to point out is that the count is a nice place to pause and make sure you have all your data. So if I say here are 7 data points, do the descriptive statistics, make sure this says 7. If it says 6, then you'll know you did something wrong. You didn't grab all the data, or you labeled something strange, or whatever the case may be. So if I give you 10 data points, make sure this count says 10. It's just a nice way to double check yourself. But otherwise, this is all that you need really to move forward on many, many things. I hope you're greatly impressed with it.